if the worst thing your child want to do is be themselves and you put them out, that just breaks my heart. I just want people to know, when you have a child, you should accept and love and embrace and be thankful that God gave you that child, that baby. And let somebody try to tell me I can't be myself.
Stay on the battlefield. I'm gonna stay on the battlefield. I'm gonna stay.
Bridges can be built between the African American community and members of the gay and lesbian community by people having a better understanding of the history of gays and lesbians in the community. Some of the most prominent African American leaders have been gay, have been lesbians, and have made tremendous contributions to the overall civil rights movement. And I think the more people learn the history, involvement of persons who've been active in the community, they'll come to appreciate that they have made this wonderful contribution to the overall civil rights movement.
The civil rights effort would not have been successful from its inception without Bayard Rustin and other gays and lesbians that chimed in and supported the civil rights movement. Without Bayard Rustin, we wouldn't have had a civil rights movement. Bayard Rustin brought the concept of nonviolent protest and reinforced it every day, not only to the late Dr. Martin Luther King, but to other folks of the Christian coalition down in the South. Bayard Rustin had contacts up in the North and had avenues to obtain resources and revenue so we could have the March on Washington.
During the height of the civil rights movement, one of the things the FBI attempted to do was to make King fire Bayard Rustin. And he essentially approached them basically saying, we've got evidence that he was convicted, which was of a misdemeanor, for being in the bathroom with a male. This is 1963. And what he told King and others, that Bayard Rustin had to be forced off of the organizing committee for the March on Washington. And they had what they call the Big Six, which consist of some of the most noted civil rights leaders of the time. And so the Big Six met, and 5 of the Big Six actually agreed to fire Bayard Rustin, including Martin Luther King Jr. The 6th man who did not agree was a man named A. Philip Randolph. He at that time was considered the elder of the civil rights movement. And when he told King, in no uncertain terms, that if Bayard Rustin goes, he goes. King and the movement couldn't afford to lose A. Philip Randolph because he represented labor and they needed that. And he said, A. Philip Randolph, if you allow them to do this to Bayard Rustin, they will eventually do the same thing to you.
You know, those warriors from the 60s and 70s should be proud of the trail that they blazed and the lessons that they taught, and should be super proud that other folks are emulating what they did and linking up and continuing that fight.
We are Americans. We're Marylanders, but we're Americans. And every day, when we ask our children to stand up, and when we get up and pledge allegiance to the flag, and we say, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's not for some. It's not for your boys. It's not just for your families. It's for all. And I do believe that.
Stay on the battlefield till I die.
The other thing with African American gays and lesbians, what we see is a double oppression. An oppression that not only where there's discrimination because of sexual orientation or gender identification, but also because of the color of their skin. I mean, unfortunately, we also live in a society that hasn't fully dealt with issues of race and racial equality. So for African Americans, this is a double oppression.
Discriminating against someone because of the way they look is not proper, and Maryland shouldn't do it. And presently in Baltimore City and Montgomery County, And in the state of Maryland, because Governor O'Malley signed an executive order which included gender bias, if you work for Baltimore City and if you live in Montgomery County and if you work for the state, you are protected. But for the rest of Maryland, you're not, and it's not right.
When people are discriminated against, it has an impact on the whole society. And until we are more inclusive and we spend more time getting to know people who are different from us, I think that when we have that knowledge base, then we will be able to change our attitude about them.
These are not rights that the Bible says you should have or not have. These are rights that the laws of the state, that the citizens of the state have said should be given to all the citizens of the state. Yet we say to certain citizens, no, we're not going to give you those rights. We're not going to give you those protections. And that is the critical piece, those protections that they must and should have. Protections, in fact, that when you have children in a relationship, in a loving relationship, but they're not able to be on your health plan, your health benefits. When you, in fact, there is the death of your spouse, or your loved one, then in fact you have to go through probate taxes and things of this nature. The issue about visitation at hospitals and or schools, when in fact your children have a greater need and are in fact, when we talk in this world about having more adult involvement in PTA, but yet you deny people the right to say, well, this is my child, because they recognize the loving relationship is not recognized. Those are concerns and problems that we do have. I mean, there are over 400 different laws that are on the books that are beneficial to those that can marry and are recognized by the state and the federal government. But yet through civil union and or nothing else, those things are not recognized. Civil unions don't get us to the place we need to be. That's why we need civil marriage. We can protect the religious right to have a marriage and who they recognize, but we're talking about a civil marriage and a civil government responsibility.